Hey everyone, Mark here from the windowcleaningstore.com. Today we're going to talk about troubleshooting water-fed brushes that appear to have one or more jets that are either partially clogged or fully clogged. So that is, let's say in a particular brush like this where you've got 4 jets, maybe 3 of the jets are shooting out nicely and one is either just dribbling or doesn't seem to be shooting out at all. Now the first thing I like to tell people to do is just simplify your troubleshooting process by first taking the main water feed line off your brush and even taking your brush off the pole so you can just kind of work with it and observe the brush without having to worry about the whole setup of it being on your pole. Now, one of the first things I want to take a look at is if you got a brush like this, which has got boar's hair in the middle, or if you got a full boar's hair brush, quite often, because boar's hair is a natural bristle, it has a tendency to lay flat or go limp when wet. And what happens is after you've used it a couple times, that limp hair gets staying pressed down. And you may actually, looking in at the front of the brush, might actually see one of the jets having a few hairs that are lying down flat in front of it. And water is just one of those things in nature where it'll always choose the path of least resistance. So even just a few hairs lying in front of a jet nozzle will be enough to say, you know what guys, let's go around to the other jets. There's nothing blocking here. So if you do see anything like that, I mean, you can go in there with your finger, maybe you can pull that up or spread it off to the side. If it doesn't want to behave that way, you can always take like a straight edge razor here, little small thing, go in there and just cut a few of those hairs, or a nice pair of snips, which I like to use. And then test your brush again by hooking up your hose line and then seeing how it performs. But most of us will have this problem of a jet partially or fully clogged, not because of that, but because of something that's going on within the tubing here. So we're going to simplify the troubleshooting process even further by taking this portion of the jet hoses off the brush. Sometimes it might just be on a 2-jet, it might just be a little piece of hose and a T. In this particular case, it's for 4 jets. So now we want to get the brush to the point where all we have is the brush, the jets, and these 4 little stems. So first thing that you want to do, you can either do it by looking through this way or looking through this way. See if you can actually see light when you're looking through here, light coming from the other end. In other words, you're not seeing any blockage. So you can do just a physical or sight test like that. Another thing you can do, and some people might say this is gross, but don't worry, this is not going to kill you. You can actually blow on each tube one at a time and feel for air on the other side. And if you feel any different amount of air coming out of any from the front, or if you feel yourself actually having to blow harder on one of those, you can tell that the trouble is somewhere within the tubing and the back of the jet itself. Another test you could do is actually take your water line, put a straight connector on there, and then hook it up to one jet at a time, have water flowing through it, seeing how it performs, then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Again, if you notice a performance difference between them, you know that the trouble is somewhere between here and has nothing to do with this piece or nothing to do with your main water line. So let's just say we have identified this as being a problem. A couple of things we could do. One of the methods that you've probably been told in the past is to take a needle or a paper clip and push into the hole from this side to loosen up the debris. Now this is great if we're doing it like this, because we're not only just loosening up the debris, but we have a chance to get the debris out of the tube. If we've got this whole apparatus hooked up, doing this really doesn't fix the problem, because it might push the dirt or debris that's blocking the hole back a bit, but as soon as you shoot water through this again, it's just gonna put that debris back in front of the hole. So we can do something like this, loosen it up, and what I like to do is I'll take my water feed tube and I can actually go to the front of the jet and push water through it. So now any loosened debris is going to shoot out the other end. So you can do that to all of them. If we had easier access, we could just blow on the hole, but I find that this or even a small length of tube. Even if you had a small length of tube cut, you could put it in front of the jet and on the other end your mouth and just blow through. So you can either do the water method or the blow through. So the last thing I want to say about clogged jets and how they can get clogged in the first place is you got to remember we have our water line on the ground at all time. And anytime we have an exposed end and that's on the ground, there's a great chance of it picking up dirt. Then we put a fitting on, maybe we put a straight fitting on, we connect two tubes together, or we hook this up to our garden fitting. And now we've got debris inside the tube. It's going to go up the tube and eventually work its way in and behind the jets where the jet hole is, which is really quite small. And all you need is just enough debris to be in front of that hole to, like I said, the water's going to choose the path of least resistance. It's going to just double back and go over to one of the other jets where it can flow freely.